including parts of the Byzantine Empire. Then 80 years, Muslims were in Spain established and created one of the most brightest cultural and civilizational activities and heritage which all the world now are proud of. At the same time, many Mediterranean islands from Cyprus to Sicily to Jamaica, from Mallorca to Rhodes and Malta were part of the Muslim world. The existence, the strong existence, the cultural existence of the Muslims in Spain, of course, as you all know, has created a wonderful cultural, scientific, philosophical developments which everybody is proud of being associated with it, and it has been shown as a bright episode in history of mankind. And of course there, and also in the eastern flank of the what is being called the Eastern Caliphate in Abbasid lands, the Greek philosophy and Greek sciences were translated and they were studied, advanced, and Muslim scholars, Christians and Jews joined in this scientific renaissance, which advanced, from one side kept and preserved this legacy, and from the other side it advanced it, developed it to new levels. And this advanced legacy, or this new legacy of the Muslim scholars, went to Europe, and that were the cornerstones or the grounds for the Renaissance and the later on scientific revolution and the modern civilization which we all live within. Meanwhile, Islam came to Europe with the Ottomans, and in the southeast of Europe, a similar, maybe it's not well studied and well acclaimed as it is in the case of Andalusia, but the Balkans under the Ottomans were a place of peaceful existence, and where many arts and letters were developed. And now new studies shows that the Balkans were a place of peaceful existence between different people, different races, different ethnicities, and that Pax Ottomanica was really working well until Berlin Agreement Convention, and then until the First World War, when the war that ends all war was the end which started all wars. Actually, it was the war which started war. So all these factors shows that Islam has been the part and parcel of European existence, European continent. When you add to this legacy the contemporary factors, the facts on the ground today, that you have quite a big number of indigenous Muslim Europeans, Albanians, Bosnians, Pomaks, Torbishes, Gypsies, and many other small ethnicities who are Muslim and who are indigenous Europeans. I'm not speaking about Turks who living there for 400 years or 500 years, they are still the bad guys. But I'm speaking about the good guys who are the real ethnically European. Now, when you look to millions of Muslims in France, in Germany, in England, they are no longer the immigrants. They are more second generation, third generation. And when you look to people, Western Europeans who converted to Islam for more than one reason, you end with a big number of Muslim Europeans and they constitute the second biggest population in Europe after Christians. So can we still say that Europe is a Christian continent? Or we can say it's Christian and Muslim continent as well. This is, in my understanding, the biggest challenge Europe is facing. Europe don't want to acknowledge this. But when you look to a parallel to that, a sad events which happened in Europe, which is the Holocaust, which is the oppression of the Jews after centuries of their expulsion and persecution. When we came to the Second World War, there was the Holocaust. Europe started to recognize the Judaic element in its culture. After all these sad experiences. And by the way, those who know about Ottoman history, they will remember that it was the Ottoman Empire who saved the Jews of Spain from the consequences of Reconquista. Your faith or your head. And they were settled and were well protected. And then received many other waves of immigrants from Europe to the Muslim world. So Europe recognized the Judaic element in its culture. And now, after the Second World War, you find that certain books speak about Judeo-Christian civilization, which was until then only Christian civilization. So when you look to all these elements, you think that you question yourself, is Europe a Christian continent? Or is it a continent for Christians and Muslims and Jews as well? And is the European civilization is built on Christian legacy? Who brought rationalism, who brought philosophy, who brought sciences to Europe, which had lost its contact with all these under the known what is being called as Dark Ages, though there are revision now of this term, but still it is in this context is valid that when the translation Latin and Hebrew translations of the Arabic texts on sciences and philosophy and medicine were translated, they created this modern science and modern scientific revolution. So when you come to this point, would we still say that Europe is host for Muslims, Pakistanis, Turks, Algerians, or whatever it is? Host for them? Or is Europe home for Islam? I think this is a question to be addressed. Would we say Islam is intruder to Europe? Or Islam is a component of Europe? I think if Europe can overcome this, internalizes this problem, and get out of this syndrome of being Christian, and then condescending to, by a condescending way, accept the Judaic element to repay for the Holocaust and all the sufferings of the Jews in Europe all the centuries, add the prefix Judeo-Christian. If Europe answers this, I think Turkey has a place to it. Of course, Turkey will have a place there if Europe needs it again. And who knows? My generation lived through the Cold War, and we never expected the Berlin Wall will collapse and the Soviet Union will collapse. We didn't. So we don't know how it is going, how the future will shape. Now, if you look to last decade I think the world is going through quite